Have you taken long trips by yourself, such as the one from California to Arizona to Utah in June of 2008 in the past?
I'm sorry, will you repeat that?
Have you taken long trips by yourself in the past, such as the one from California to Arizona to Utah, the one you took in June of 2008?
Only along highways that I was familiar with, such as from Monterey County to Wairika, or after I became familiar with the drive from Arizona to Southern California. And the Monterey to Wairika drive, I'd probably driven it but ridden it with my family over the years, countless times. I could name all the cities, all the landmarks, all those things along the way. I knew where everything was on those roads, and I had experiences in various cities along those roads. So those roads I was familiar with. I've never driven on the I-15, at least for any great distance, and not outside of California.
How often did you take such trips?
I like to do road trips. Travis and I began to do road trips.
Sustained. How often did you take such trips?
I wouldn't know an exact number.
During the trips you took, did you take extra gas cans with you?
Only after I moved to the desert. Daryl was like, we're from the coast, so we had total shocks to our systems when we experienced our first summer here. And we began to carry cases of water in our trunk, and if we were going long distances, we'd carry a gas can just in case, because he thought, he would be like, you could die out here. You know, if something happens, if your car runs out of gas, you can't turn the air conditioning on, you could literally die of heat stroke, and that was a fear. So we carried water, and we didn't carry gas around with us all the time if we were just hanging around town, but if we went out to 29 Palms or somewhere like that, then that would happen.
If you took gas cans with you, where did you get them?
I got the two gas cans that I took on that trip, I got from Daryl. And then I bought the third one, and then I determined I didn't need it, and I returned it.
I think the question is referring to in the past, if you took gas cans with you, where did you get them?
Oh, they were Daryl's.
During your testimony, you mentioned Travis had hit your car once. Can you tell us about that incident?
Yes, that was the incident in May 2007. We had spent 2 days at Disneyland and then we were driving from Anaheim to Los Angeles, where the Getty Center is, because the Getty Center is on the list. That was our purpose for going. And on the way there, there was a ton of traffic. I don't remember if it was 5 lanes or 6 lanes, but it was bumper to bumper. Not any of the lanes were moving at all, hardly. We would just inch along, inch along, inch along. And he grew very frustrated, very impatient, and angry. And he began I don't want to say what he said, but he just began yelling at other drivers, and they weren't aware of him at all doing that, but he was just screaming at the other drivers. He was beating on the steering wheel. He would beat the inside of the door, the driver's side door, just with his fist, or the horns were on the side, so he wasn't honking the horn, but he would beat the center of the steering wheel.
Why did you confront Travis after seeing him with another woman through his backyard window, if it was not due to jealousy?
I felt that because he was making an effort, this was also right after we had just slept together consensually, and we went all the way, and he said, I love you, and all these things. So I felt like we were getting back together. And when I saw that, it seemed in contrast to what he had been telling me for the last month and a half. So my intention was to go there and just find out what's the deal.
She was asking, she wasn't jealous. Why did she confront him?
I'm explaining why I went over there.
You may continue.
Okay. So my intention of going over there was not out of jealousy, but it was because I wanted to know where I stood. Are we still trying this? Do you have a new girlfriend? If he had a girlfriend, that was fine. I just wanted to know, was all.
If you simply wanted to know where you stood because he was courting you back, why were you so upset that you needed to call your father about the incident the next day?
I didn't want to call my father.
She's a strange person, because after she left the house, you just kind of got a little strange. She's really friendly. Sometimes she'll call and real sweet. And 10 minutes later, she'll come and call in a rage.
I wanted to call my sister, my little sister, because her and I talk we're relatively close, and we talk about stuff like that. It's a girl thing. So I called my parents' home because she lived there at the time. And she wasn't home, but my dad answered, and he could tell that maybe I was sad, so that's why I began to talk to him. The reason I was sad was because Travis and I were getting back together.
Sustained. Sustained. You mentioned an earlier failed attempt using rope during a sexual encounter. Can you tell us what happened that day, when this occurred, and how Travis handled the failure?
I didn't hear that. Judge, can I ask a quick question?
Certainly.
I thought that last question said, why were you so upset that you had to call your father? So I began to explain why I was upset.
All right. Your attorney will have an opportunity to follow up with you later.
Okay, thank you.
You mentioned an earlier failed attempt using rope during a sexual encounter. Can you tell us what happened that day when this occurred and how Travis handled the failure?
Yes. He handled it just fine. He didn't get upset. We just stopped. He used twine, and it was very scratchy, and it sort of was not cutting into my wrist, but it was abrasive, and it was somewhat painful. So at that point, he just cut the twine off with a knife as well.
Did Travis's dog usually bark when someone came into the house?
Yes, if the dog heard the door open, he was very animated, and he would bark very loud.
Monday night. And when she goes over there, she goes and knocks on the door. And she knocks on the door very, very hard. Well, nobody answers. The only thing that she sees is the dog. The dog Napoleon, which is Mr. Alexander's dog, comes up to the door, just sort of throwing himself up on the door very excitedly. And she can tell that there's something wrong here.
Did the dog usually bark with loud, unexplained noises?
Typically only if the doorbell rang or somebody knocked at the front door.
Why would you continue to stay with someone who had sex with you while you were sleeping?
At that point, that would have been May 2007, I was in love with Travis. I knew I was in love with him, and it didn't make a difference to me, honestly. I was in love with him. My only concern was that I believed from a religious and spiritual perspective that our relationship would not be blessed if we acted that way. So, as in vaginal sex, that was my belief at the time.
When did you find out that Travis had a gun?
I found out in the fall 2007 when I was cleaning his shelves. I had different projects, and it was around the fall. I don't remember if it was in October or November, but it was around that time.
To your knowledge, did police ever find your grandfather's gun that was stolen?
To my knowledge, no, none of the property that was stolen from that house was recovered ever.
Why did you place Travis's body back in the shower?
I could only speculate because I don't remember, and I could speculate based on who I know that I am or thought I was. Should I?
Objection, speculation.
Sustained, so don't answer the question. Do you know what time you left Travis's house on June 4, 2008?
I don't remember the exact time, but as far as
Objection,
the daytime,
Sustained. What happened to the clothes you were wearing on June 4, 2008?
I don't remember. I was in clothes when I came to, and I don't.
Objection, speculation, then she doesn't know.
Sustained. You say Travis had attacked you before June 4, 2008, but would apologize to you after he did it. So why was the June 4, 2008 incident so different?
Bruh.
June 4th was escalated, and he always apologized afterward prior occasions. On prior occasions, I'd never feared for my life. And even when he was choking me out and I was losing consciousness, I didn't have enough time to fear for my life. I passed out. It wasn't until after that incident, when I reflected back on it, that I realized I could have died. And if he could take it that far, and he was as angry as he was, and I perceived very clearly that he was trying to get back on top of me again, that freaked me out. I was scared out of my mind.